Hello, everyone. Welcome to the James Morgan Jazz One-on-One Conversation Series 2026. Yeah, that's a mouthful. Um, it's a new series that I had wanted to start on the James Morgan Jazz YouTube channel. I'll tell you a little bit about that. As you can see on the split screen, I have a guest today, Fabrice Tarel. I hope I pronounce his name correctly. He'll help us out later. But the series just started on January 1st, 2026, with my good friend and guest, Gary Husband, keyboardist, drummer, to kick it off. And the series basically is to help upcoming musicians that are sitting in their bedrooms all day trying to get the perfect riff and posting it, hoping it goes viral, making some money off of that. And they're not really aware that there's other paths out there in the music business. There's touring, there's producing, there's radio, playing with other musicians, which is where you find your voice, learning to improvise, all that, those aspects of music. So I know a lot of these young musicians are posting things online. They make great money. Some of them are making thousands of dollars a month. So there's no motivation for them to lug their gear around and go play clubs for practically nothing. And but there's value in that. There's an organic side to music, and that's what I'm trying to show with these experienced players that I'm having. And I was going to do one a month, but it turned out I got such a great response. I'm doing one a week, and I'm booked 15 weeks out. So it's been a great success. I have a lot of great musicians. Of course, Gary, I mentioned, who I recorded an album with in 2024, Soul in Time, Adrian Farad, Eric Marienthal on sax. And also I have Niels. He's in the smooth jazz, top of the charts for almost a year. I have Victor Wooten, bassist. He'll be on later this year. So today's guest, Fabrice, is a keyboardist actually discovered interesting story about 6 years ago. And he was playing with, I think it was called the Tarel Lohengrin Quartet. And I was on YouTube. I had started playing my smooth jazz guitar, transitioning from jazz rock. You can see the guitar next to me. And I was looking for guitar players' tones that I liked, so I could start emulating and finding the tone I liked. Discovered guitarist Tom Ohlendorf, but through him, he was playing with the keyboardist, but I had already started listening to this keyboardist, this piano player, jazz player, years before. So it's like kind of a small world. And Tom, I've already interviewed him, by the way. He'll be on in a couple of weeks, his premiere. And the jazz pianist I really liked. I like Fabrice's playing because he doesn't sound like every other player. He has kind of his own voice, but his phrasing is great. I wouldn't say it's a classical approach, but he does the unexpected when he's playing. He doesn't do the typical riffs, bebop riffs, and all the things that a lot of keyboardists go to. So it's very interesting, keeps you engaged. And I really wanted to have him on today because he writes great music, plays really good musicians. Actually, one of his albums he did with Tom Ohlendorf, I have a CD. It's very good. I play it in the car all the time. Very nice. He's got 7 albums to his name, I believe. And he started out, I guess, playing violin and added piano. We'll find out more about that. He did live in England from about 2004 to 2007, graduated from Leeds College of Music with a degree, I would presume. We'll find out. And he's collaborated with many musicians, has his own music. He's very well known in Europe. France has, in the last couple of years, become more popular with music. A lot of jazz is going to France the last, I'd say, 2 to 5 years. It wasn't like that before. There's a guitarist, Laurent Madalgi, who I interviewed. I talked to him quite a bit about that. But again, Fabrice is from originally from the south of France, and again, I discovered him about 6 years ago. He has a production tetrachord uh, company that he works with to release his music through. And without further ado, I want to welcome Fabrice to the series. Thanks for joining today.
Hello, everyone.
All right. So you're from the south of France. When you were growing up, was there a lot of music in the house? Did anyone else in your family play music? How were you exposed to music as a young child?
My parents were not musicians, but I know that my mother would have liked very much actually playing music, so she was pushing for it. So she didn't really know how it worked like, but yeah, she enrolled me to some classical course. So that's when I started playing the violin. Actually, I was hesitating between violin and piano, but piano, as you know, can be quite expensive when you want to start. It's a bit more complicated to have it. So yeah, I started by the violin. And a few years later, my sisters got a piano because she wanted to play, and I kept going to her room all the day to practice and to play on her instruments. So I could play both violin and piano. That's how it started like. But we were in a really classical background, I would say. My cousin was playing flute as well. We would do some duets together. It was really entertaining, but no jazz at all and nothing related to jazz, no soul music, no blues, but some Michael Jackson around through my sisters and brothers, because I've got one brother. Yeah, some Michael Jackson was out at the time, Dangerous album, you know, it was launched in the 90s, and it helped starting to have some jazzy harmonies in my ears, I would say, yeah.
So you're playing and you're studying classical, which I know is very disciplined. It's a very disciplined music to get into. I know when I interviewed Gary Husband, he told me that even his instructor would get physically abusive to him. They were so, like actually hit him, that kind of thing, and verbally to keep them moving. So you're doing classical, and that's again very disciplined. You're learning how to read, obviously, so you can sight read. And for those who don't know, I play by ear. I don't read music at all. But that's very disciplined too. And that's very, for those viewers out there that don't know how to read, it's actually a good thing to do if you want to be a side musician and get a lot of session work and things like that. Otherwise, you end up being a band leader like me. So you're playing with your sister, your cousin, and you're kind of doing that, and you're exposed to little Michael Jackson. How did you transition from listening and playing that kind of music to jazz? Was there a certain album that caught your attention in a jazz musician, maybe?
Yeah, it became gradually, yeah, my ears got used to that gradually. Actually, it went through some people like George Benson, I would say, that was a very good way to go to jazz, because a lot of my friends during my teenage years were listening to jazz music. But I found it tough, to be honest. When I was 15, 16, it was still hard at the time because I was not from that music at all, never exposed to that in my family. So George Benson was really helpful for that. And I will say there were two very important things that triggered me, actually. A band from United States came into my town. It was a small town, so we didn't have jazz very often. And someone invited me there. And it was one French guy who went to US to study and came back with a very good band. And he was there, and I could see that band for the first time. And it really struck me at the time. Yeah, it changed everything. So that was one thing. And the other, one of the bassists I played with at the time became quite famous in France. He's called Jérémy Bruyère. And actually, I don't even know now if he knows about that story because we haven't met each other for quite long. But he left a CD of Bill Evans one day on my desk because one of his teachers gave that to him. And I just randomly put one track, and then it was really I knew straight away it's the way I wanted to sound like and what I was interested in, you know. And that was a disc from the CD Riverside box set, sorry, from Riverside. It's Moonbeam's album, you know, the one he did just when Scott LaFaro died. He had a really tough time, and then he recorded that specific album, which is really smooth, really delicate, and that was perfect for me to go into it. And the first song I played was on the recording was on the reader, so it was the 34 Skydew. I don't know if you heard that tune. It sounds like nothing else. It's very, 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 very strange in a way, and it struck me. Yeah, really. Yeah, I knew something had to be done in that area. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're playing classical, which again is very disciplined, and I also noticed when I watch a lot of your videos, the way you sit at the piano is very classical. You have posture, it's very classical posture that a lot of jazz players lean and they have different, but you have a very, you know, you can tell you have that. And plus, again, like I told viewers, your playing isn't a typical jazz. And I think maybe because you do have that classical background training, it's kind of incorporated and given you a unique sound that I think is kind of refreshing because it does sound different. Is it Bill Evans, the keyboardist? There's a keyboardist, Bill Evans, right?
The piano player.
You remind me of him a little bit.
Yeah, of course, yeah. So
Yeah.
I guess, in the mood of my music, I guess you can find some connection. But the writing nowadays, I'm very into the modern jazz time we are in now. You know, I'm not playing some older stuff, I would say, even if I listen to it a lot. So it's in the mood, I will say that there is a connection with Bill, but not in the writing anymore to me. Yeah. But I see what you mean.
I think more, I was thinking more in terms of phrasing and just your touch. But so you're getting into jazz, you got excited about this, you decide you want to go that way. Did you start taking any kind of lessons into that, or did you start listening to other music and then learning the songs, or did you get the real book and start playing? And how did that happen where you just really got into it? And then how did you find other jazz musicians? Did you go to jazz clubs and sit in? How'd that work?
It was a tough time for me. I can explain that because actually I was doing, A level in France. Do you see what it is? Yeah, A level is the way they call it when you end your studies in England. I don't know how it's called in the United States, but it's when you're about to have 18. So when I listened to Bill Evans for the first time and I really knew I wanted to do that, I was 17. And so I was doing some other studies in business area, and I really wanted to do music. So I needed to find some little moments to practice, but I didn't have a lot. So I went to a conservatoire, but part-time, to really do jazz rather than classical like I was doing before. And I kept every day, like I had a lot of transport to go to my business studies, I kept listening to Bill over and over and over again. And I don't know, it fed me so much. It was a really good way to escape actually from the studies I was doing that I hated at the time. Business field was really not for me. Bill was, I don't know, I felt such a strong connection at that moment and felt really his emotions, through his music.
Yeah.
So it helped for everything, but it took me a bit of time to really do jazz music full time.
Manifest and happen. So you went to the Leeds, and that's where you took music classes there at Leeds?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah. And then of course you meet other musicians, you start playing probably in clubs. And I know in the thing about London or the UK, it's got a very strong, it's known for its strong music communities. So, and I know talking to Tom Ohlendorf, he also was exposed to that whole music thing over there. What did you start playing with musicians and start playing in clubs?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. We had a little club there, and that was really good actually as a start because you could meet very advanced people there, very advanced musicians knowing all the standards by
Oh,
memory. But some people less advanced had really some space as well to play with them, and that connection we had together, and everyone would feel welcome there, and that was perfect
right.
for me to start. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's like you could go sit in and like it used to be here in the 50s and 60s, jazz players could go into a club and just sit in and play with them. It was not so this band's playing and that's it. So now you're playing around in clubs, and when did you decide you wanted to when do you think you found your voice, first of all, in jazz? Was it a certain moment, or was it after playing for a little while? Because you have a certain voice that you feel with confidence that when you go in and you can close your eyes or whatever and play, when did you feel you felt comfortable with yourself and you found your voice? Was there a
Hmm.
certain moment
Uh,
or?
to me, it's gradual, but when I listen to my first composition that you can still find online, actually, or on my CD, there is one CD which is called Blood Future with Riley Stonelon again. I
Uh-huh.
recorded that. You were talking about that band. I recorded that album 5 years ago, I would say.
Yeah.
Uh, and Blood Future is actually my oldest composition. So it was when I was about 20. And you feel that interesting thing between Bill Evans' atmosphere, in tunes like Time Remembered. He
Uh-huh.
wrote that. Yeah, especially Time Remembered and Reperson I Knew. Yeah, that kind of mood. Uh, but you can feel already something which is my own voice, I will say. So at the time already, I think there was something, especially in the writing, actually. I
Yeah.
remember my teachers telling me, oh, yeah, your writing is a strong point. You've
Yeah.
got something to do there.
Yeah.
And gradually it evaded from Bill Evans' area to something much more modern, but keeping the mood, I will say. But the
Right.
classical thing, yeah, a lot of people say that about my playing. Yeah, it's not that it sounds like classical music, but there,
Mhm.
there is something coming from there. Yeah, and obviously I practiced a lot of uh, composers like Debussy, who wrote a lot of amazing piano music,
Yeah.
like Le Reflet dans l'eau, which is a piece I love. Ravel as well. Some Ravel's music is fantastic for the piano. So yeah, it's some colors that helped me through my writing. Mm.
Yeah. So you find your own voice. That's so important. And then, so it really came when, I mean, you could probably hear it more when you did that album. That I recommend people listen to that album. That was you were lucky to have such a good group at that time to be introduced to jazz because it sounds so full. It sounds like jazz.
Mm.
And one of the things I like about your playing, I know you use the term modern jazz a lot, but your jazz has a very old school sound to me too. It has
Oh.
like almost like a more of a purity to to jazz than people that are. It doesn't sound cliche, I guess
Mhm.
is the thing. And when you improvise, I can tell that you like to improvise a lot. And for classical players, because I've played with classical players with background, a lot of them can't improvise that well because they were so trained in a linear way of thinking. But you're really to me, I love it when you go off and you start soloing, but it's always relaxed. But so you found your own voice and you recorded the first album. When you recorded it, were you recording it to put out in the world, or were you recording it to get more work? What was the motivation from?
Oh, the CD I was talking about with Riley, it was 5 years ago, but the first CD I did, it was much older than that. Yeah, it was at
Uh,
the Leeds College of Music when I was 23, I would say. But yeah,
uh,
when I did that, we had access to amazing studios there, and I needed to go back to France
oh,
because I had finished my degree. I was graduated, and yeah, I had to start from nothing, I would say, because in France I had not been there for 3 years and not doing music
oh,
full time there. So yeah, it was the first step to really go into something professional. So I went to, I did a tour with my English musicians at the time, actually, when I was 23, in my region near Lyon. With that album I recorded at the time. So yeah, that was the first step. But Blood Future was on that old CD, and we recorded it again with Riley Stone again 5 years ago. So that's why.
Yeah. So you basically had to start playing in France from the beginning, and if you think about it, from what you're telling me, it sounds like it was almost like going to another country, because when you left, you were a classical player, maybe, or getting into jazz. Sounds like you came back and you wanted to play jazz. I don't know how strong the jazz community is in France, but what were some of the obstacles of that you felt were trying to get you work and play? What were some of the obstacles you had to overcome?
What's not very easy, actually, when you leave your country for a few years and you're back, like you say, no one knows you. So you expect in a way that people will tell you, oh yeah, come and play. We're happy to have you around. But it's not that easy, because you've got already some people around and you are not there. No one knows you. So gradually you have to show what you're doing, to get yourself known, find musicians around you. So I found really good musicians to start with, but just a few. I started with the first band and we toured a lot, and I learned a lot from them. But it was a very lonely process compared to what it is now. Now I play with so many different people in different places, different countries. It's changing every day. And my life at the time, it was just connecting with a few people, with a specific band, going deep into one repertoire I was writing, obviously working a bit on the standards, but it was very, very different.
So you are a composer, and then you had a couple albums out. Uh, what was the next album that came out after that? And was that with a different group of musicians that you were playing with at the time?
Yeah, I did. At first, I did several trio albums, but with different people. So first, some English musicians. Then I found that band I was talking about with French
Yes.
people in my region. So we recorded 2 albums in trio, because I was a huge fan of trios because of Bill Evans and all the things, Keith
Yeah.
Jarrett, Chick Corea. So I
Yeah.
wanted to get into that. So after with that second trio, I created again another trio. We recorded 2 other discs, and then I started really wanting to collaborate with different instruments. So it was yeah, 6 years ago. I did with Riley Stone Lonergan, which is a sax player, then Tom Ollendorf, then now a trumpet player as well.
And then how did you get together with Tom? Tom, of course, very accomplished guitarist, beautiful music, a classical background, unique tone. To me, he's I think one of the best guitarists on the scene on the planet
I agree.
currently today. But how did you two get together? Because you both have such a symbiotic um, relationship. You can tell when you're playing, it's very close. Like, you sound great together. You complement each other.
Yeah, it works very well, and I can thank very much Riley Stone Lonergan, because Riley is in London.
Okay.
And he told me, "Oh, the way you write music, and I know a guitarist which is really accomplished." I didn't know very well Tom Ollendorf, but actually I realized they were friends. And he told me, "You should do something together," and that's what I did a few months later. And
Oh,
yeah, no, it went together very, very quickly, because in terms of universe, we are really good together with Tom. Yeah.
yeah. Because separately, you're both like band leaders, really. You have your own, both composers, different kind of music. I mean, you're different, but when you come together, it just seems to sound so effortless and intertwines nicely. Your background with his playing and the tones that you both have, it really is a great combination. I think if you two maybe years ago when like the whole Chick Corea time and all Herbie Hancock and those kinds of bands are coming out, if you two were together at that time, I think you guys would have been a force to be reckoned with. I think there's so many good musicians like you and Tom and Romain Pilon and so many that are because of the way the music landscape is these days with streaming and people just wanting to listen to clips of music instead of listening to an album like we did when we were younger. We would listen to the whole album. And then jazz being its own niche of music, I think it's more difficult for musicians like to get like of your caliber to get the exposure you deserve because you both of you guys are very talented, and it's especially the London Vibes album, such a great album. It's just really nice. So I know you're a band leader. You do play with other people and you're collaborating. And then Mark Michel, who's a great drummer, who I interviewed, his premiere will be in a couple days. He has a very compositional style of playing drums. He's not just a timekeeper. He's very colorful and he listens and to all the instruments. How did you meet him? Did you meet him through Tom or?
Actually, Mark is from my region originally,
Oh.
not very close to where I live, but he obviously was very often around before to go to live to UK, then Berlin. So he went to different places. But in my trio, when my main drummer couldn't be there, so I would call him to see if he's around, and he would do some gigs with me. And I could see straight away that he understood very, very well the way my music is written.
Yeah.
So it's very helpful because he's a composer, he's a classical percussionist, drummer. So he's got a very deep understanding of what is going on. And you can see that through London Vibes, obviously. And that's a part of the magic, what does Mark in the band,
And then what's your composing process? Do you write chords first? Do you just hear something when you're driving in the car and you go, oh, I have to record that, and you record it on your phone with your voice? Or do you start with rhythms, a melody? What's your composing process of composing songs? Is it a certain way or is it different?
It could be the melody or the chords. Obviously, you can do both on the piano, so it's helpful. But I will say what's very important to me, if I write something down, it tends to be something really, really small at first. So it could be just 2 bars of something I find really different and really fresh and new. If it sounds like anything I know already, I will not find the interest of digging that. So it has to sound really fresh and entertaining. And most of the time, I don't have the time or the inspiration to pursue the work. So I will record that small cell or those few bars on my phone very quickly. And so I leave it apart. And after sometimes I've got many, many ideas like that. And when I listen to them again, I decide if I want to continue or not. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I know talking to a lot of musicians, they do that. They don't have time. They'll record it on their phone and then listen to it later and maybe add something to it. And then it becomes inspiring for something else. One of the things that was interesting to me that you just said that I noticed about musicians that are very good musicians, and I'm not saying you rate them, but you can tell when somebody is talented, is that they're intelligent. And I think creativity and intelligence combine well together. And when you're an intelligent person, you need to create because it keeps life interesting, new and different. And I think just out of that need as an outlet to express that creativity with the intelligence, you can come up with these ideas that you come up with, and then they get exciting to you, put them together. So when you put a song together, Like you said, maybe you have some chords or you have a melody, and then you see some chords, you go, maybe those chords would go with this melody, or I could put this section here, and then you have a song. Do you chart your songs out after that so you can give to the other players, or do you record them? How does that work when you show your music to other musicians?
Yeah, I've at the end of the process, obviously, I will put that everything on the computer. But first, I will just write a few chords, really the minimum, and record and re-record. But as long as I don't get something very interesting after those few cells or those few bars I was
Right.
telling you about, I won't write more, you know. So I will go very slowly to make sure it's interesting. But the trap will be to me, if you want to be only doing something different all the time, it
Yeah.
can be a trap. It can sound complicated for nothing. So I guess
Right.
it's a mix between freshness. I write in a very intuitive way, so I can't give you a really
Yeah.
clear
Yeah.
recipe, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a mix of intuitiveness and the and ideas, yeah.
Yeah.
But
But you want to
getting it,
keep it, you want to keep it where it's palatable for the listener too, so they can follow it. It's not too avant-garde and too outside. I know for me, when I just started playing what they call contemporary smooth jazz in 2016 because I wanted to get more work doing corporate work and weddings, and it's easy listening music. And then I found out I made my first CD just to give to people to get work, and then it got nominated, and then every CD after that got nominated, and then of course, in 5 years I've won awards, and all these other things have happened. But one of the things that with this music that I've gotten into, like my last single, "Frequency of Love," is only two chords, and I work a lot off rhythm mostly, and because I don't read, will come up with a rhythm, and I go, oh, I find some chords, and I've simplified because I used to play fusion music, and fusion was very different, a lot of changes and dynamic. A Soul in Time, the album I did with Gary, is kind of an example of that. But the smooth jazz, I can just do two chords, come up with a good melody that feels good. It's relaxed. People can drink their wine and just sit back, watch the sunset, and listen to it. So when I write, I actually write now, not just for myself, but I'm writing because I want I want to enhance their life experience.
mm,
If they're driving in their car, that maybe I have a song on there that makes them feel like it's easier to get through that boring drive from point A to point B a little nicer. So
mm.
my
It's very
my
interesting.
motivation, yeah, and my motivations for writing have changed. How has your music uh, changed from when you first started when you first came to France to where it is now? How do you feel it has changed? Do you think you're in a place that um, it's kind of more comfortable, and it's it works for you?
Yeah, I would say it tends to be less dense, you know. So you get rid of everything which is not useful and that makes things tense and complicated for nothing. And you keep the fresh ideas and what's really interesting. So yeah, being more experienced is really good in that way, you know, because
Yeah.
you see what should be there and when it just has to be really, mm, how to say, not dense, you know,
Yeah,
very
not
sparse. Yeah.
overcomplicated, and yeah. And I think that creates more relaxation for the listener and less tension for the listener too. I mean, I
There
would
is
think,
something. There is something I'd like to add. Actually, you know,
sure.
I know you like very much the album with Tom Ollendorff. I wrote it 1 or 2 years before we recorded it. Actually, so
Oh,
it was somewhere on my computer, and I didn't look at it for a while. You know, I just remembered. Oh, that music I wrote was quite simple. Do I really want to play that with the band, or is that gonna sound easy listening? Like, you know.
hmm.
And a few weeks before Tom came, I looked back at the music being like, oh, I've got nothing else So I can play my old compositions and a few more I would write very quickly, all that. And finally, I tried with that repertoire, but I wasn't really convinced it would sound so great in the end. And actually, I think that's the magic about it. Yeah, it's not overcomplicated. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I know for me when I got into the smooth jazz music, a lot of the guitar players have a very R&B sound. And to me, smooth jazz is, and they call it's different than straight ahead, obviously, but smooth jazz is to me just R&B music without vocals. It's just got a groove. And it was hard for me to tell guitar players that are different from the other guitar players. They all sounded the same to me. I'd have to look at their name and, oh, that's so and so. But one of the things I like about your playing, Tom's playing, is that on that album too, it is very relaxing and clear. But you guys have your own sound. You don't sound like other people. And to me, that's so important for those players, these young kids out there that are playing Alan Holdsworth riffs on their guitar, playing, Chick Corea, Spain on the piano, and they just put out these things. It's really, I think, important for them to know from listening to you that it's important to write your own music, to evolve as a musician from one place to the next. You're always discovering something new about yourself. And when you play with other musicians, you discover new music that you had in yourself that if you didn't play with those particular musicians, you would have never known it was there. And I think that's what you're saying kind of about this album, is that you had these songs, you didn't really know how it would turn out, but you had the right musicians and it turned out really good.
Yeah, that album, there is some magic about it, and
yeah.
I'm very happy about the results, and we recorded it in one day, only. So yeah, we are really
That's
happy
amazing.
about the results.
And you guys should come out with another one. I really think it's one of those albums you should. Now, a lot of musicians, I've talked to different ones. A lot of them are touring musicians, like Gary. He's always on tour constantly. There's a lot of side musicians like Mark, Michelle is playing with different people. Do you have I know when they're at home, they have a certain practice routine where maybe they'll play 3 hours a day from 3 to 5. But as you know, as we get older, when we're younger, it's easier to find time. When you get older, you have life to deal with. You have family, bills to pay, you have to work. Do you still have a certain practice routine that you do at home on piano? And what's it like? Do you do scales? Do you play songs?
In the past, I had really a daily routine. As you say, when you're younger, you tend to work this way. But through time, every day is different to me now. So at the moment, I'm working on the new repertoire I'm writing, because I'm going to have a project with a violinist. So I've got even my violin, so I can try things out on that instrument. And obviously, I'm more looking on the piano at those pieces I'm writing. So I'm not really practicing technique or rhythm or anything like that. But I will do that at some points when I've got the time. What I try to do the most often nowadays is to practice standards in all keys. It helps me a lot, because to me, it really allows you to have all the different ways, because a keyboard is really different, with the white and black keys. So if you play in all the keys, you know how a phrase could sound in all different keys. And so it's it's like discovering a new field and doing all the different ways on the field, like squares. And at the end, you've discovered everything. So that's the way I feel about that. So but nowadays it changes a lot.
Yeah, well, the thing about piano too is everything is laid out for you. You can see everything. Everybody plays piano, sees the piano the same. All the notes are always there. The thing about guitar that's different is it's not the same for everybody. It's not all laid out. It's probably one of the hardest instruments I think that to play, because everything is everywhere. But I have found, and I think you may have found this, as you get older and you play longer through the decades, and I've been playing for almost 50 years now, is that I practice, I practice every day for 2 to 3 hours, but I don't do scales or certain patterns. But what I'll do is I'll find ideas and I'll just work on those ideas for a half hour, and then I'll work on another idea. Sometimes it'll turn into a song, or other times I'll find when I do a live show, the thing that I worked on, I can fit it in, and I do, and it's like, oh, and then someone will come up to me and say, wow, that riff you did when we went up to the next chord was really great. It's like, oh, and then I think to myself, yeah, I practiced that like 3 weeks ago. I think as you get older, again, you evolve away from the rudimentary stuff and you get more into your own areas that you feel are practicing. It's not just doing scales anymore.
Exactly, yeah. And it's a better way, the way you explain, yeah, it's much easier after you use that stuff you've been practicing when you're playing for gigs or practicing with other musicians. Otherwise, it tends to be really the practice in one way and the playing, and it's difficult to make them related together, yeah.
And that's one of the things too with the series is that I want musicians to know if that are at home practicing and can play amazing music, riffs that I could never even think of ever playing. It's when you practice your ideas at home by yourself, it's great to go with other musicians and then you can incorporate them. But if you, again, like you said, if you just play scales and things, you're not developing anything to interact with the other musicians. You're not working on your vocabulary. And I think as you get older, we realize as older musicians, it's really about developing your vocabulary. So you could go play any kind of music. You could play jazz or pop or classical. And that to me, that is being a seasoned player. And it makes it more comfortable for you because you can play in any situation. Now, do you if you had a preference, do you like recording more or do you like playing live more? Or are they both the same?
That's really interesting. No, I would say I'm so happy about, as you said, I could be more famous or something like that, playing in more countries, but I'm very happy about where I am actually already being able to record quite a lot of discs, because now the new disc I'm launching, it was launched the last month actually. It's my 8th disc, so under my own name. So it's quite a lot. So I've been recording quite a lot, my own music and some other CDs with some other people, obviously. And I play regularly my music as well. So I'm very happy about the balance. What I would say is that I'm very happy nowadays to be able to record at home, because what you can see behind me is a part of my studio. So at any moment, I can record a disc with very good quality and create teams around my music. I've got a real freedom.
Well, if you had to choose, I know for me, I've recorded my last 2 singles, Frequency of Love and Live Love. And my new one that's coming out January 30th, West Coast Smooth. I've been recording in a regular studio and I record all my music live. So I'm playing the rhythm and then I go right into the solo. And so there's no overdubs because I like that magic of there. But most people record the parts and put them together because they want everything clean and perfect. But for me, maybe because I'm old school, I don't care if it's a little off or if you can hear me hit a string off, because it's real. But when I recorded with my album Groove and Smooth, produced by Dean Brown, I had been doing all my own music like you, and I found a producer, and I felt I needed one because of my lack of reading music and other things that I lacked. And I remember the first day we played, he was used to producing people that were doing it as a hobby, maybe not real serious. So he didn't know me. He called me that night and said, James, you guys are really good. Would you mind if I played on your album? And I'm like, sure, play on my record, Dean Brown. And so I didn't play any rhythm on that album. He played all the rhythm. I just do melody and
Okay.
solo. And I thought, wow, this is nice. All I have to do is write the songs, give them to him. He charts them. I just and do that. But then he passed away during Soul in Time, and we finished the album. But my last three I recorded live, but now I got a home studio for the first time. It's called a Lava Studio, and it's the latest in technology. It's a box about this big. You don't have to hook up to a computer and everything, and it breaks all the stems down. You can record all the drums, everything. So I may start doing home things because a lot of people do, but it's going to be hard for me because I love that
Mm.
fresh sound. Like you said, you recorded London Vibes all together in one day in the studio, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's where we did it actually. Yeah, just
And
behind
I
me.
think
And
that's why that album has a magic that it has because
hmm.
you guys played together. I really like that. Now, moving from practicing routine and then, of course, recording, um, was there a musician in your past or present that gave you a piece of advice that you've kind of taken as like a credo for yourself that, oh, it gave you something that makes you who you are as a musician? Was
Hmm.
there that you
It
could
was.
share with us?
I'm not sure about music. Obviously, I got some advices, but from many people. But I would say just to keep it going with my projects. I remember one person, Colin Byrne, he was called. Yeah, he's in UK, and I remember him telling me, "Yeah, you have to keep calling people and to show what you do. To show your work, and so
Yeah.
that's how it's gonna happen for you." So at
Uh,
that moment, I really realized, yeah, I had to push really hard. I couldn't play just at home and
mm,
being around in clubs, yeah, I needed
yeah.
to get out. So it helped me a lot because I was really young at the time, and
Yeah.
yeah, from the beginning, I was really serious about that. Yeah.
So he told you basically to start self-marketing yourself, marketing
Yeah,
yourself.
exactly, and
And
yeah,
I agree with that. Again, for the music industry has changed now. It used to be record labels and they would acquisition of musicians and pay them and do all the advertising for them and get and all that. But nowadays, we're all independent artists. I often tell people I don't consider myself the greatest guitarist, composer, any of that, but because I'm a good marketer. I came out of obscurity 5 years ago. No one knew who I was to playing with some of the top musicians in the world, winning awards, and it's all through a lot of it. Yeah, the music's good, but the marketing, you have to get every day, you have to post something. Now, different cultures are different. I know in France, and I've talked to Hadrian about this and other musicians, it's not really considered uh, good. I wouldn't say good, but for lack of a better word, to promote yourself because it's
yeah,
like,
yeah. I see what you mean. Yeah.
but in America, go ahead.
No, no, no. Come on, come on.
I was
No,
going to
in
say
America.
it's the opposite here. Everything is about self-promotion and
Mm.
that.
Exactly. Yeah. In France, the system for musicians is a bit helpful for us. So you have to, if you push less, you could still be a professional musician and to get a living out of it. But
Yeah.
in the United States, yeah, if you don't do that, I guess you can't survive. Yeah, it is very
Well,
different.
yeah, and then also coming out with music, one of the things I chose smooth jazz for me is because it's very popular. And when you have it used to be maybe 9,000 songs came out or albums a month. Now
Mhm.
60,000 songs come out every day.
Yeah.
Um, so for you to even be heard and on streaming or be on a chart is an accomplishment because if you have that many songs come out, the interesting statistic is that 60 million songs a year don't even get one play on
Yeah.
Spotify.
Hmm.
So self-promotion, I'm glad you brought that up. That's a good piece of advice. I recommend anyone just you have to promote yourself because no one's going to do it for you. Now is a good time actually for people to start their own record companies. Like I just started JMJ Records, and I'm going to have a few people on the label. And all a record company is now is a marketing tool. I have access to over 150 radio stations around the world for contemporary jazz and smooth jazz. So if somebody wants to get their music out there, I can help them do that. And it's all through marketing and connections and emails and interviews and talking to people. Even some of the people that I've interviewed, we're going to, because of the interview, we decided, oh, let's do something together, you know? So it's all interaction. And but that's a good piece of advice, and I think that's good for anyone watching this. It's really important to do that. Music can be, you can be the greatest musician in the world, but no one's going to hear you if you don't promote yourself.
Exactly. You know? And it's after doing that, you get some people to work for you at a certain moment. But at first, it has to come from you. And it's sharing really. There is the musician work, I will say. He's practicing, like, as we said, the scales and everything, all the stuff, knowing the standards, being to play in different kind of bands and different kind of jazz, different kind of standards. There is the artistry, which is how you write. What do you want to say? What do you want to tell to people? For me, it's something really important. You've got so many musicians, they play so well, but you can feel when you listen to them, they don't really know what they want to say to people. And I can hear that. And I've got a lack when I hear that kind of albums. So it's my second topic I will talk about. And then, the marketing one. Because otherwise you play for yourself and your musicians' friends, but you don't play for only musicians. You play for people. It's a language. And it has to be more than just the musicians, I would say.
No, definitely. And then so when you play piano, when you go to an event, obviously you can't take a piano with you everywhere you go. Do you play mostly the acoustic piano when you go out and play? And if you when you go, is there any requirements that you ask for at the club when you go, or do you just have to make do with the piano that's there? How does that work?
Oh, it's very different from one place to the other. And in certain venue, I would expect to have a really good grand piano. You know, if it's a festival, in a club, if it's a club, you expect to have, some small grand piano, I would say, at least tuned and that kind of thing. And sometimes you've got nothing. And in a tour, you will play on some amazing pianos. And for one gig, a specific one, you would play on the digital piano because there is nothing else. Sometimes it can happen, you know, on a tour when you can't have anything else. And it depends where it is. And
like when you play the Crescent, they have a piano at the Crescent.
They've got a nice piano there.
Right. And then, but you play electric, you can take your electric and then use the acoustic patch if you go play somewhere like you said, if they don't have a grand piano, you take
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, I've not tried that because I would be scared of having some technical problems, I will say. It can be interesting, but still, between the keys, the mechanic, and the sounds, it's not from the same instrument. So I don't know. I should try. I can't tell more about that at the moment, but
acoustic piano to me is so beautiful because if you hit it hard or you hit it soft, you can create so many different emotions. It's not just about the scales, but how you hit it and all that. So if you a couple of questions. One, if you could play with any musician, alive or dead, and I asked this of all the musicians, these next two questions towards the end of the interview. If you could play with any musician, alive or dead, or just meet them, it could be one or two. Who would you love to have played with or play with?
That's interesting as well. I would say I was so much in love with the Bill Evans Explorations album that I would ask Scott and Paul Motion actually to play with me because I love that album so much. There is so much magic. So I would love that. And after you've got so many people around, so many people.
Miles Davis, Chick Corea.
Yeah, of course, Coltrane. Actually, a part of Bill Evans, Coltrane moves me very deeply as well. When I listen to him, there is, in terms of magic and emotions, there is something so deep there that I try to get those emotions out of the albums because it's one of the only one who gives me so much intensity. But playing with him, I guess it was even different, even much deeper because you're really together,
Yeah. So if you weren't a musician, and I know you were going to music school or business, you were taking business. If you weren't a musician, what other occupation or what would have wanted to do, or what would you do? I know I asked Gary Husband this, and he said he'd like to be a Grand Prix Formula One driver. If there's any other occupation you could do other than playing music, if you didn't play, what would it be, do you think?
I was really much being younger into, I will say, politics. I hate politicians like many of us nowadays, But politics, the way it should be. In a long time ago, if I was in a different period of time, it would have made sense for me, trying to make, in a way, the world better, and to find a right balance between, people and the countries.
Yeah, how people live. Yeah, well, that's the wonderful thing about music, I think, is we have a gift that other regular people that work from 9 to 5, go to work every day, come home, pay their bills, and do the grind every day. I think as artists, painters and musicians and sculptors, but especially for musicians, that makes us unique is that music is intangible. It's a vibration. It's a frequency that exists that we cannot see with our eyes. We can't touch it with our hands. We can't smell it. We can't hear it, but we can think it in our mind. But I think we think it, but then we feel it in our soul, and then we're able to, as a conduit, let the music come through us, so that in a physical form through an instrument, that the instrument has its own voice. I think as musicians, we learn to meld with the instrument so that the ideas that we have can come through it. It's really the instrument that has the voice. It's what we bring to the instrument, and then the instrument expresses it, and then the people hear it in their ears, and it evokes emotions that makes them feel happy or sad, or if they're having a bad time in life, it helps them through it. So I think we as artists have a special gift that we give to the world that I think is underrated. People don't realize that we do have a gift. We take the intangible and we make it tangible. And sometimes it has a message behind it because we have a story to tell. And when you have a story to tell, and I think one of the things that appeals about your music is that you tell a story when you're playing. It's not empty. It's not just notes coming out, like you said earlier. You're actually, from your life experience, through ups and downs, things that we go through, suffer emotionally, whatever. In the music, we're able to, it comes through us, and then through our own emotions, piano or guitar or whatever it is, we give that. And I think that's a great gift to have. And I think like teachers, we're very underrated. We shouldn't even have to really, like in the old days, Beethoven and stuff, they didn't even have to work, because they would have patrons of the arts would just support them so they could play their music. And I think that's the way real musicians should be treated, not this, corporate music that's out there that has no feeling and nothing. It's just because, again, a lot of things I think as musicians, especially jazz musicians and composers, we have a world, corporate world, that is telling listeners what music is through the streaming. And it's they don't know that there's this other organic music out there because that's all they have access to. They were born into it as through youth, especially the new generation. So I think it's really important for us to stay rooted in the organic part of music because I think it's going to come back to it. I think, first of all, streaming, a lot of the musicians are leaving. There's no bands anymore. Most of the music you hear, you know them as who they are rather than what their music is. You know who Adele is, not really through music, but it's Adele, it's Taylor Swift, it's this, their personalities. It's not really about the music. And I think what's going to happen is their catalogs are going to become boring because there's no bands anymore coming out. It's just the same stuff over and over. And I think so people are going to look for an alternative. CDs are becoming popular again, vinyls becoming popular, and live music. I think it's going to go around, and I think musicians like us, we're going to find that there is going to be a bigger audience in the coming, I say in the next 5 years. I think it's going to change. So
I agree with that, yeah. And I think a lot of people are scared about IA, but actually what's interesting with that is that people are going to want to look music live because it's not going to be entertaining to have robots creating music, but just people playing it and the challenge of playing that together. So it's going to help us to make our music known, yeah.
Right. So again, we have a gift. We take the intangible, make it tangible. The other thing is AI can be used as a tool. Otherwise, if music was all computerized, I could see 20 years from now people going, "Oh, look, a human playing music. Oh, look," But I think will always have a place. It may not be worldwide like in the old days, but at least if you're part of a community, music community, and you can play clubs, and in Europe, you're in a great situation because you can go to France and England and Morocco and wherever, Paris and all the different countries close by, Germany. In America, we have America. We have to go across an ocean to get somewhere. It's much different, and I think jazz is a little more sophisticated in Europe, to be honest with you. Music is a little more sophisticated. That's why a lot of musicians go there and play. Al Di Meola goes there. John McLaughlin lives in France. There's music is in. To me, Europe is still, it always has been, the hub of music. It really is, and it's great to have a musician from France, from Europe, on this series because I think it gives a fresh perspective to Americans that may be watching this, that a deeper look into music, and that there's a community, like you said, you have your musicians that you're part of and you can play with and play in jazz with so many different artists. So you're very fortunate, and I appreciate again for you coming on the series and sharing your part of your story with us.
No, I'm really happy to share with you as well, and really happy to hear what people in the United States think about Europe, for example, because some people will leave Europe to go to New York, obviously, because that's the place to be. But the other way around, it happens a lot. I know Brad Meldo is in Amsterdam, for example, so that's interesting.
Well, I know that talking to some musicians in Europe that they went to New York, and New York isn't like it used to be, they said. It's not that community anymore where you could go. Most of the clubs are closed. There's just a few now. You have Smalls and a couple other small clubs, but I really think Europe is going to be a resurgence of where a lot of musicians go because just the feel of Europe has more of a community feel than America. It really does. It has more culture for sure. It's everything is rooted in their language, and it's so different. And of course, I know it's different because our mutual friend that you played with, Cecile, in France. I've learned a lot about different cultures, and we all think differently. But one thing about music, it's universal. It's a universal language, and it crosses all barriers. And you may not be in politics, but I think that you are helping the balance of things with your music. And I really think you should definitely keep your music out there and try to get it out there as much as you can, because your music is really great music. It really is. I think you're probably one of the most underrated musician pianists that I've run into, that you should have a lot more exposure than you do, because you have a great talent, great touch, great sound. So again, I really appreciate you coming on the series. So
Yeah, thank you so much to spend some time sharing with me, and it looks exciting to meet all those people through interviews. So yeah, that's a very good thing to do. Yeah.
all right. Okay, I'm sure we'll talk to each other again.
Yeah, with pleasure.